All right, let's read into the tea leaves with our analyst, former NBA Coach of the Year, Avery Johnson. Coach, a happy 4th to you. Nets and Lakers reportedly ongoing trade talks here for a Kyrie Russ swap. Lots of hurdles to clear to get this done, but I want to start on the human side. You got players, coaches, front office members likely all having to massage big egos here. It surely can't be a heads-up deal, so what do the details look like to you to this potential deal? And is there a conceivable scenario where everyone comes out happy?
Well, I don't know if everybody's going to come out happy because the Nets, obviously, they're in a bind right now. So they're not going to be happy, and we'll get to them a little bit later. But when you look at this trade, it all depends on whether Anthony Davis is going to be included in this trade. If it's just a trade between the Nets and the Lakers and Kyrie Irving and Russell Westbrook and the Nets have to throw in a few more players to make the salary work, then that's a different story. And then if Kyrie Irving joins the Lakers, it still boils down to Anthony Davis, whether he's going to be healthy. We know what LeBron James and Kyrie Irving can do together. You talking about Kyrie Irving who can play on the ball, off the ball. LeBron James at his age still playing at a very, very high level. Those guys are guys that can dominate a series. Obviously, Anthony Davis doing the season when they played in the bubble, won a championship with LeBron, but now we're back to normal circumstances. So again, it just all depends whether a third team needs to get involved to make the numbers work, to make this trade work. So at the end of the day, if this trade is consummated and the Lakers can retain Anthony Davis, they're obviously going to be the happy team. And it's going to be still problematic for the Brooklyn Nets.
All right, let's say this deal does come to pass. Let's explore that Brooklyn side here. They go from Harden, KD, and Kyrie to Simmons and Westbrook in a matter of 5 months. Not the type of magic trick you're looking for, Coach, but assuming Ben is healthy and ready to roll, Russ is fully engaged, is that an effective enough backcourt in today's NBA? Or are we looking at an utter lack of shooting in a shooter's league?
Yeah, you answered the question, Joe. This is a shooter's league. It's a spacing league. And both of those guys don't provide enough spacing in today's NBA. Now, Ben Simmons obviously is very competitive on the defensive end. Russell Westbrook is not the defender that he was when he played back with the Oklahoma City Thunder. That's something that Darvin Ham, the coach of the Lakers, talked about. So in today's NBA, I don't think they have enough shooting. I don't know if they even have enough shooting around them. Because you don't know in this trade whether the Nets would lose a guy like Seth Curry. Patty Mills re-signed, so we don't know his situation. But this doesn't bode well for the Nets. They're not even a play-in team in the Eastern Conference with Westbrook and Ben Simmons. There would definitely be a rebuilding team because they're not a play-in team or a playoff.
Well, the mad rush of NBA free agency starting to slow down a little bit for LBJ and the Lakers. It's been radio silent since the beginning, though. LeBron James, Anthony Davis, Russell Westbrook, still the big three, expect to return next season, but that's not going to be enough the way the West is stacked up. But there's been rumors and rumblings, Kyrie Irving maybe reuniting with James there out on the West Coast. Maybe Kevin Durant. We are among us in silly season, so why not just throw everybody out there? I know a guy, Avery Johnson, Mr. 55, it still give you something off the pick and roll. Just saying. But taking a look at those outlooks when it comes to the odds for the Lakers and the stacks right now to win the conference, plus 600, then the finals, plus 1,000. But here's the thing, that big three of James, AD, and Russ, they did not make the postseason just a year ago. Speaking of Mr. Pick and Roll, Avery Johnson tapping in on the holiday for us here on HQ. Coach, let's get into it. The first and second wave of free agency kind of behind us a little bit, but if you are the Lakers, what's the next move? Are we still thinking Kyrie? Is there a chance Russ might be on the move there out in L.A.?
Yeah, Kyrie Irving, I believe, is the only move for the Lakers, and they got to go all in. And especially if you can move Westbrook in his contract. Westbrook is really on the downside of his career. We saw it last year, not very effective from the outside, especially from the three-point line. It's not really the same defender that he was, even though Darvin Ham, his new coach, wants him to get back to defending the way he was defending. Worried a little bit too much about the media and specifically social media and some of the comments and the nicknames that he received from some of the analysts across different networks. But Kyrie Irving, I think, is the only answer for them. And if they can get Kyrie and reunite him with LeBron James, he's still in the prime of his career. He needs a change of scenery desperately. And I know that he tried to force his way to the Lakers in a sign and trade. But at that point, the Nets and the Lakers couldn't get on the same page because I think the Brooklyn Nets thought Kevin Durant was coming back at that point. So I think this would be a fantastic move for the Lakers. I don't think it would make them a top 4 team in the West, especially, you just don't know right now. Now, with a healthy Anthony Davis, if Anthony Davis is healthy, and they don't have to include Anthony Davis in a trade for Kyrie, maybe that'll be a difference. A guy like Tyler Hero. Tyler Hero is a guy that would be included in this trade. And if you pair up Kevin Durant and Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo in a trade scenario like this, that's something that can make, obviously, the Heat very dangerous. Kyle Lowry, who was basically injured towards the end of the season, he came up short. But we know Jimmy Butler, man, this guy is a monster. He can get the job done. And if for some reason they can make the money work, again, I keep thinking another third team's going to get involved because you got so much salary, especially with Kevin Durant in the first year of that $198 million extension. I don't know if the Heat has enough guys from a contractual standpoint in terms of whether the Nets are going to want that type of package back. But Kevin Durant teaming up with Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo, whoa, they would be definitely the favorites in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, that is a tasty proposition. Mm-hmm. I got to be open here. We asked Coach, hey, give us 3 teams you think that KD could end up on. The Heat was one of them. Another one kind of surprised me a little bit, I got to say, the Celtics. I feel like the Celtics are making moves. They got Brogdon, they picked up Danilo Gallinari. How does KD end up on the C's?
Well, if I'm Brooklyn Nets, this is a team that it may not be Kevin Durant's favorite landing spot or one of his top 2, because the reports are he's talked more about the Heat, and I know we'll get to the Suns in a minute. But when you look at players that you can get back in return, you're talking about a Marcus Smart, potentially a Jaylen Brown. Man, that's a good-looking package in return, especially if you have to start a franchise over. And guys that I think would have great synergy and chemistry with a guy like Ben Simmons once Ben Simmons gets back to 100%. Now, we know the Celtics, they're not going to trade Jason Tatum. I would be very, very surprised. But if you can get Brown, if you can get Smart back, maybe a big to help you on the front line. I know they just re-signed Claxton. Then I think this catapults the Celtics. Whether Kevin Durant joins the Heat or the Celtics, they're going to be the favorites over a team like the Milwaukee Bucks and the Philadelphia 76ers. So if I'm the Brooklyn Nets, I would call Boston first rather than want to have a discussion with the Heat or this next team that we're going to talk about.
We are talking about Kevin Durant. Everybody's on the phone right now, Coach. We're going to take this conversation offline, you and me, talk about why we haven't mentioned my Bulls just yet. That's neither here nor there. Best scenario for KD, you alluded to it, this coming season. That's in Phoenix in your eyes.
Oh, absolutely. And, Kevin Durant and Devin Booker spent, last summer playing on the national team for our great country, the USA, and won that gold medal. And I know those guys had a lot of conversations. Remember back when LeBron and Bosh and Wade played on the national team together? And, oh, by the way, they ended up playing on the Miami Heat together. But now you're talking about CP3, who's Kevin Durant has a tremendous amount of respect for. He and Devin Booker have been working out together in Los Angeles. I think Monty Williams, who's NBA Coach of the Year, who's really a great players coach. This is the ideal place, based on what I'm hearing, where Kevin Durant wants to play next season and end up in Phoenix. James Harden, he forced his way out of Houston to Brooklyn, forced his way out of Brooklyn to Philadelphia. So let's see if Kevin Durant can get his ideal landing spot, which is the Phoenix Suns.
Phoenix Suns are already good. That would be a fierce unit with KD out there. Let's talk about things that are actually happening rather than speculating for just a moment here. Coach, which team do you think is having the best offseason so far?
Well, this may be a little bit of a surprise because we've talked about teams like the Celtics trade for Brogdon, but overall, I think it's the New Orleans Pelicans. When you make it to the playoffs, you lose to the Phoenix Suns when Chris Paul has to go off for 40-plus points in a closeout game, and Devin Booker came back after, being out with COVID protocols. When you have a chance to re-sign your aircraft carrier in Zion Williamson and add him to this team, oh my goodness. Herb Jones, another outstanding young player in his rookie campaign, and you trade for C.J. McCollum. This guy averages, 26, 27 points a game, and 20 of those points are ferocious in the paint, way he can block shots. This guy's almost unstoppable. And you add him to this team with Brandon Ingram, man, look out. I think the New Orleans Pelicans, when most guys don't want to stay in your small market, there were reports that he wanted to end up in New York, but they were able to retain him. What an offseason for the New Orleans Pelicans to get back Zion Williamson, and hopefully he'll be healthy, because if he's healthy, this is going to be a dangerous team.
Yeah, we're talking about executives, players, coaches. It's an entertainment product at the end of the day, and few are as entertaining as Zion when he is on the court, hoping that happens in the not-too-distant future. We can get to see him for that full season sample size and perhaps some playoffs as well. Coach, not everybody's heading into the holiday with a smile. Who's having the worst week, and why is his name Sean Marks?
Yeah, Sean Marks and the Brooklyn Nets. They're having a bad week. This is a bad situation because they basically pushed all of their chips in for Kevin Durant first, and then Kyrie Irving. And obviously we know James Harden is long gone. And now Kyrie Irving wanted to force his way out. There were no takers, so he had to opt in. And then when he opted in, Kevin Durant is basically opting out. Even though he has 4 years left on his contract, he doesn't want to be a Brooklyn Net anymore. So the Nets, unfortunately, just a bad offseason, and now they're going to have to rebuild. This team is heading in a situation where they're not going to be a playoff team. We've seen this movie with the Nets before. They tried to push their chips all in with Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce. That